Hey guys, so I just got this in the mail. Seems like I always start videos that way. I always get something in the mail. I figured I'd take this opportunity to do a bit of an update on the whole printer setup. So what I ordered here is actually extra parts, but I thought I would share them. So if you're new to 3D printing, then it may be a shock to you to learn that there are some parts in this machine that are considered consumable. Probably the biggest consumable with this one is the main part. It's actually the screen. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this is an MSLA, so mask SLA. Instead of a laser going back and forth and hardening the resin, it's actually an LED light, or sorry, UV light that shoots up from the bottom, and there's a screen on the top that, or actually a screen on the top between, like just below the resin tank, and it's masking off part of your design. So anyway, because that screen is very similar to like a phone screen, it has a limited lifetime, especially when it's being blasted with UV light, all the time. So they're designed to work for about 500 hours, and then you have to replace it. The good news is that replacing it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's actually really affordable, considering what it's doing. For example, like if you're a small business, then one of these screens is about $80, and that's very affordable. If it's just a hobby, maybe it's a little bit more for you, in terms of budget. But anyway, if you're printing and you're actually making money off of these things, then it's not that bad. So anyway, this is the screen itself. I'm not going to open it just because I want to keep all the dust at bay. It's got screen protector stickers and everything, but it looks like the bottom isn't covered. These screens are designed to fit this machine exclusively. So in other words, you can't go out and buy like one of the Mars screens, even though it's the same resolution. It doesn't have this aluminum housing, which makes it fit into the Prusa machine. So anyway, bear that in mind, that you can't go find cheaper options. They have to come from Prusa. And quite frankly, I don't think that's a terrible thing. I mean, I've come to trust some of the Prusa, their method of doing things. Like, this is trackable back through all the shipment process, so if there's a problem, they can go back, they can identify that maybe if this one was defective, that others would be defective, and they can help everybody, not just you. And I guarantee that the Prusa will be more, they'll be more active in keeping these things in stock than I think some of the other brands. Like I did pay more for this as compared to the Mars, or a Photon or something. But I mean, whereas the Photon was, so let's say $300. Not only is this one, designed a little bit heavier duty, it's more aluminum, more steel. I feel like Prusa is going to be in the game a lot longer than some of these other brands, which may have just kind of jumped on an opportunity and kind of run with it. So anyway, so I got 2 screens, so that's another 1,000 hours of printing time, which is awesome. To put it into perspective, one of these screens, if you were to print every single day, 24 hours a day, without any downtime, it would still last 3 solid weeks. So I'd hope that in that time you could print something that could help, pay for this. Anyway, these ones, I believe, are the FEP foils. So to kind of move along with this, the other part that's consumable on this, the bottom of this tank, so the part that's going down right now, there's a clear film, and the film is this here. So I don't exactly know what it's made of, but it's optically clear. It's fairly durable. I believe one of these costs $8, and you just do it yourself. There's a bunch of screws on the bottom that line up with all these little holes, and you just swap it out. The other thing I bought, because I've found that my production has been ramping up a fair amount, is I got an extra resin tank right here. I got the extra resin tank because I've been doing a lot of printing with multiple color for clients, And I'm also starting to do more of the casting for my jewelry work. So the idea that I had for this initially was I want to have another tank that I could have on the side, as another color, or if, when those contracts are done, when I start to do more of the castable material, I'll have one that's set aside just for the castable, and hopefully the screen, or not the screen, hopefully the film on the bottom will remain a little bit in better shape, as compared to the others. What I tend to do is I'll have one for printing like a prototype, because that material is cheaper. It's about 5 cents a gram, depending on the brand. And then I'll have the one for the castable material, which is about 5 times the cost, about 25 cents a gram. But ultimately, it's going to be burned away anyway. So I wanted to have an extra tank for that. And then again, just because of production work, I got a new build platform so that I can hot swap, essentially, having my downtime. What I'm doing now is, the build plate finishes. Ooh, nice. The build plate finishes, and then, you take your platform out, you wash it, you get all the things off, and in that, 5 or so minutes that it takes for you to get this cleared away and ready for the next part, I could have had the next print started at the very least, and being able to just hot swap that in will be really nice. I see this one's a little bit different. They've actually, it looks like they've done like it's very like Apple-esque when you look at this aluminum, all these aluminum parts. They seem to be like bead blasted. I think it's like a glass bead that they shoot at to get this nice stippled texture. On the one that came with the machine, the bottom of this build plate was actually machined, so you could see all the mill lines, so it was perfectly flat. It looks like they did that and then they bead blasted it, so it's actually got a texture. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Using the scraper, wherever it went, using the scraper to take the things off, you notice some texture. I think that this bead blast may actually help the model adhere to the build plate, which I don't have too much problem anymore with, but it's not unheard of for there to be some delaminations and some. I also wanted to talk about how the printer has been going for us as a whole. This printer is quite simply phenomenal. It's worth every penny that we spent, and even though there's been a little bit of a learning curve, this being our first printer ever, we didn't quite have a good understanding of how to do support placements and how the placement on the build plate can affect the success of the model. But we've learned all that just through trial and error and reading up on certain things. So if you've already got a good handle on how to do that kind of stuff, then this printer is amazing. I'd strongly recommend this printer for any small business that wants to just kind of try 3D printing, see how it works with their model, or how it can expand into something else. It would also be good for a hobbyist who's got a little bit of, who wants to buy something a little bit more robust. I know as I mentioned before, there are Photons and the Mars brands ones that are a lot more affordable, and they produce very similar results, but ultimately, I'd consider one of those printers a lot more like, a standard paper printer. Like it's almost cheaper just to buy a new printer sometimes to replace some of the parts in them. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. We have more videos about this printer when we first got it, like the unboxing, setup, and how it's handled some of our other projects. So thanks for watching, and happy printing.